So I've come to just, accept that as a part of like just this universe of Lord of the Rings expression that continues to expand and grow. And, it's, people send me these things occasionally. Like, have you seen this? I'm like, no, but that's funny. Thanks.
It's done.
Oh my gosh, but it's so nice to see you. And this movie was so delightfully creepy. Oh my God.
Delightfully creepy.
I mean,
yes, it is. It is creepy.
Press record and let's get this party started.
It is February 13th, 1986. This is Agent Bill Hagmaier. I'm sitting with Theodore.
No, Ted.
I'm sitting with Ted Bundy.
well, of course, everyone knows Ted Bundy, such an infamous man, but it really feels like there has been such a resurgence of late in Hollywood about his story. What was it about this script in particular that you were like, this is the one?
Obviously we found the script not sort of, in the throngs of the focus on Ted Bundy. It just weirdly happened in the zeitgeist in the span of time of trying to get the movie made. But we were just fascinated by this particular story that felt it was a part of his life and a story that I had not heard before. I didn't know about his relationship with Bill Hagmaier. I didn't know about these 4 years, their conversations. And ultimately, a significant enough relationship that Ted felt that Bill was his best friend. He referred to him as his best friend at the end of his life and willed his last earthly possessions to Bill when he died. In particular, also what was intriguing was the fact that the conversations that take place in the film are largely based on transcripts and recollections of Bill. They're incredibly accurate, and that was really exciting. And it also talked about a time in his life that hadn't really been covered. And I think that was also interesting to us.
You think you're smarter than him. You think you're going to be the one that's going to get him to confess.
Well, I don't think I'm smarter, sir. I don't think you necessarily have to be smarter.
Getting to play a character that's based off of a real person can be, there's so many different facets to it. It can be extremely daunting for an actor. It can also be extremely rewarding. What kind of behind the scenes prep were you doing in order to step into this man's shoes?
Yes, it can be definitely daunting and rewarding. I mean, the only thing that's unfortunate about the timing of the making of the film is that we made it as a COVID compliant film last summer. So we weren't able to travel. Initially, we had planned on traveling east to spend time with Bill. So I didn't actually get to meet Bill. I haven't met him in person yet, but I have spoken to him on the phone. But obviously, it was important to me that I do him justice. And the main thing that I wanted to know was just simply, what does it take to walk into a room with someone like that? What were you thinking? What was the preparation? And I just wanted to get those things right. Was there any sense of anxiety? And, I had such an extraordinary actor in Luke Kirby to work opposite. His embodiment of Ted was so uncanny and incredible.
Yes.
That it made my job so much easier. To work opposite him was a joy every day.
There are a lot of myths and misunderstandings about me.
What are you going to tell me?
Everything.
It was a lot of fun. And we did a fair amount of, planning ahead of time, obviously on Zoom, not in person. But we, those scenes are intricate and there's a lot being said that's not being said. They're sort of like these psychological chess games. And it was really fun for us to break those things down, do some sort of script analysis and work out sort of the architecture of those scenes prior to doing them. And then just, delve into that space and let them kind of take on a life of their own.
We've seen so many incredible characters from you throughout your career. My personal favorite is Wilfred.
That's amazing. I love Wilfred too.
Am I dead?
Seems not.
We are in the day and age of reboots and reunions. If you could step back into the shoes of one of your past characters, who would you choose and why?
Oh, wow.
You know that everyone's just screaming Frodo right now.
Sure. I mean, look, if I had that experience to do over again, in a heartbeat, like spend the better part of 4 years in New Zealand again with those people making those films, I didn't want it to end. We principal photography was 16 months, and then we went back each year for additional shooting, for pickups and reshoots. And that kind of lulled us into this false sense of security because we're like, oh, we get to go back every year. I would have gladly kept shooting. I loved it. That's an obvious answer, though. So let me think of something. I mean, something that got cut short that I would have loved to have continued was Dirk Gently, actually.
Have you ever actually solved a case?
Sure, tons. Well,
Some.
I really loved playing Todd. Playing that character, like this sort of reluctant kind of, this person that's sort of in the midst of the sort of massive insanity storm that is Dirk Gently. The sort of foil to his comedy, I guess, was just a joy. I had so much fun playing that character. I had so much fun in that world. The cast was great. Yeah, I would have loved to have seen that carry on, because we just had a lot of fun making that show. And it felt like there were so many other stories we could tell.
1000%. Circling back to what you just said of how like you didn't want to leave New Zealand, is there an open invitation for you to go to the Amazon Lord of the Rings series? Like if they were to invite you, would you go just to see what's going on?
To just check it out? Sure. Yeah. I mean, there would certainly be no place for Frodo Baggins in those stories.
No.
But yeah, I mean, I know I've met Bayana, the J.A. Bayana, who's directing the pilot. I think he's directed probably the first 2 episodes. So I've known him from sort of Spanish friends in the Spanish film community, and he's lovely. But yeah, I mean, to visit and see what it is that they're doing in that universe and in that space, be super fascinating to visit for sure.
I just love that not only have the movies lived on, but now you are in many memes. That it's finally done. People will use that constantly.
Sure.
Like, how does it feel knowing that you're living on just an internet lore?
I mean, there's so much of that ephemera that has continued to express itself, started expressing itself relatively soon after the films were initially released. So I've come to just, accept that as a part of like just this universe of Lord of the Rings expression that continues to expand and grow. And, it's, people send me these things occasionally. Like, have you seen this? I'm like, no, but that's funny. Thanks. It's just
like, just because I'm the star of the meme doesn't mean you need to send it to me.
But it's funny because I actually don't see a lot of it. Like, for instance, the keep your secrets thing, which became a meme. People asked me about it and I hadn't seen it. So people were referencing it like it was a pop culture thing, which it clearly was, but I hadn't seen it. And I think it's partially because my experience on Twitter, I'm not really on Facebook. Yeah. I'm not exposed to that many memes, maybe. So I think I just totally missed it. And maybe I miss a lot of it. And maybe that's for the best.
It's done.
Well, my last question for you is, of course, fans know and love you as Frodo, but I loved you as Jace in Star Wars: The Resistance.
Hey, now.
What mega movie franchise would you like to join next? Because we've got you in the Star Wars world. We've done Lord of the Rings, Marvel, the Harry Potter films. Like, does any of that appeal to you?
I mean, honestly, yeah, totally. To play, and the thing about like Marvel films and, certainly the Star Wars universe too, it's to play in a large sandbox. And I think that's just inherently fun. And I haven't had a chance to play in a giant sandbox in a while. And so any of those would be awesome. I mean, Star Wars gets precedence because I'm a huge Star Wars fan. So more of that, certainly the live action sphere would be awesome. But I mean, yeah, working on a Marvel film, I mean, there's obviously like a whole conversation that happens, certainly in film Twitter, about the sort of the cinematic relevance of Marvel. Is it cinema? All this sort of shit. And, whether you like superhero movies or not, they are inherently fun. And those movies are extremely well made. And I think getting to play again in that universe or sandbox would be a blast. It'd be totally awesome. Because it's just at such an insane scale, it's awesome.